Currently, if you're only using the indoor rowing machine, there's one major muscle group that you're not using, and that's your pushing muscles. So the rowing is mostly a pulling motion in regards to our arms. Yes, we push with our legs, but as far as our upper body goes, it's a pull. So we aren't working those pushing muscles. So this video is going to be about why and how, and also how to incorporate gaining strength in that pushing motion just for overall fitness. All right, so here's why we want to be working those pushing muscles. So it's functional. We do these movements every day. So whether that's getting up from the ground, being able to push ourselves off the ground, putting something onto a shelf, we do these movements every day. And so in order to reduce the risk of injuring ourselves while we're doing these things every day, it's important to train these muscles to be able to lift more than what we do every day, motion after motion. So it's functional. That's super important. It's important to work these functional movements. Another is that if you're just rowing, you're missing kind of that chest, front of your shoulder area. So if you're not working that, you're going to be pretty deficient in that pushing motion. Take it from me, after 4 years of rowing, the collegiate rowing, my push-ups were terrible. So it's something that I've really had to work on. So I highly recommend that if you are rowing, that you're doing some sort of strength training with that pushing motion. So those are a couple reasons why you want to be working those pushing muscles vertically and horizontally. So there's really two kinds of pushing motions. We have horizontal pushing, and then we have vertical pushing. So the easiest example of horizontal pushing is the push-up. So I'm going to give you a little bit how-to here, but it also applies to other horizontal pushes like dumbbell bench press and things like that. So biggest thing with a push-up is we don't want those elbows to go out to the side. We want them to come back. Depending on that angle is going to be a little bit different for everybody, but if you shoot for somewhere around 45 degrees or a little bit less, that's a good goal to shoot for. So let me show you what that looks like. So first I'll show you what we don't want to do. So what we don't want to do is have those arms come out to the side. So I'm not going to push up like this because it's not helpful for my shoulders. So don't want those arms to go straight out. Now we do want those elbows to come back. So that's going to look like this. Elbows are back. Then as I press up. So if you can't do push-ups on your toes yet, that's okay. You can work on some knee push-ups, but what are even better is some elevated push-ups, because it's also important to brace with that core. Notice how when I did that push-up, I didn't have to worm my way up. So what I mean by that is if your core is not tight, you end up doing that, which doesn't end up being very much of a pushing motion. It's just kind of you worming yourself back up. So you do have to be able to keep that core tight as you push. So those are the two big things with push-ups, is making sure that those elbows go back and then that core stays tight. Now here's an example of the vertical press. So for something like this, you are going to need some sort of weight to lift with. So that might be a pair of dumbbells, but you can even get creative with really anything around your house or bags that have straps that you can use to press up. So similar to a push-up though, we want those elbows to stay in. So there are different shoulder presses where your elbows are out to the side, but for functionality purposes, to mimic everyday life, I recommend that you keep those elbows in front, because that's how you're going to put something on a shelf and things like that. So with whatever weight that you have, keeping those elbows forward, as you press that weight up, you want to stay over the center of your body. So we don't want to just press straight forward. We want to press up and also press our head through at the top. I am using a chair right here. You don't have to. You can just sit on the ground. You can stand also. But to be honest, I wouldn't fit in this frame if I stood. So I'm sitting. So with the presses, there's a couple different kinds you can do. That was a shoulder press or strict press, depending on how you call it. There's push presses, there's jerks, there's you can do these with a barbell. There's a lot of different ways that you can vertically press. You're probably going to need some sort of equipment to be able to do that. There's not a very good, besides handstand push-ups, which is a vertical press. You're upside down, but that's a very high scale movement. So if you're not there yet, might need some sort of equipment and be able to do a vertical press. But notice there's similarities with the push-up, right? We're keeping those elbows close. Elbows are close, right? We still want to brace with that core, even especially more so when we're going to be standing. Sitting down, I don't have to use my core nearly as much. So if you want to make it harder, you want to stand, because we don't want that back to arch. We want to keep that core nice and tight as we press up and bring it back down. So there's a little how-to on the vertical presses. All right, so for incorporating these pushing exercises, there's a couple different ways that you can do it, right? So if you have your rowing workouts, you can always get a separate strength program. And typically if you get a strength program, a full body strength program, they're gonna have some sort of pushing motion in there for you. So that's one option. Another option is if you're looking for a plan where you're getting on and off the rowing machine. So those types of workouts, you might row some, get off, do some exercises. If that program is meant to be like full body, strength gaining and things like that, they're probably going to have some sort of pushing motions in there for you, depending on what equipment they require you to have. So another way to do it though, which is very helpful, you don't need any equipment, it's just push-ups. But they're tempo push-ups, especially if you want to get a first toe push-up, if those are really hard for you to gain strength in that pushing motion, tempo push-ups are really great. So what those look like is it's building tempo on the way down. So on the way down of the push-up, you're taking longer and longer to go down, and then you can always press up on your knees. The important part is that eccentric lowering on the way down is going to help build those pushing muscles. So for instance, you might start with like 10 of them where you only have 2 seconds on the way down, take some rest. Then maybe you do 8 where it's like 3 seconds on the way down, and then 6 where it's 4, and maybe a couple where you're taking 5 seconds on the way down. Again, if you don't have toe push-ups, you can push up on your knees, but when you're lowering yourself down, you want to lower yourself down on your toes. So those over time, especially if you just do those once a week, those are going to be amazing and to help you with that pushing strength. So there are a couple of ways that you can incorporate that pushing motion and gaining that pushing strength in with your rowing workouts. Thanks for watching. If you liked what you saw and want more tips on rowing and building strength, be sure to press that subscribe button, and I will see you in the next video.